Hi, welcome to another episode of African Biographics. Aliko Dangote, the richest man in Africa, plans to spend $15 billion on a project that, if successful, could revolutionize Nigeria's economy. Dangote is constructing an oil refinery with a capacity to produce 650,000 barrels per day of oil near Lagos in Nigeria. If he succeeds, he could end the irony of Africa's biggest oil producer, Nigeria, importing $7 billion of fuel a year and instead see it meeting its own needs and supplying neighboring nations. According to a 2018 estimate, the refinery has the potential to revolutionize Nigeria's economy with its operations adding $13 billion or 2.3% to the gross domestic product of Nigeria. Oil represents more than 80% of Nigeria's exports, 30% of its banking sector credit, and 50% of the overall government revenue. In this video, we take a look at Nigeria's oil industry in brief, this grand project by the Dangote Group, and its potential benefits. Aliko Dangote's refinery has been labeled as the solution to Nigeria's oil import problem. The country currently lacks the refining capacity to meet local demand and instead imports refined petroleum, placing a burden on the foreign currency reserves. Nigeria has the second largest reserves in Africa after Libya and is the continent's largest oil producer. Yet, Nigeria is the only member of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, that needs to import refined fuel and often suffers scarcities. This has spawned fuel importers and diesel traders who have grown extremely wealthy. Nigeria's government subsidizes fuel imports to keep pump prices low, and this has contributed to Nigeria's well-documented culture of petroleum industry corruption. Dangote's oil and gas refinery is expected to produce enough to meet local demand plus a surplus for export. The plant will not only help Nigeria meet its own fuel demands and become self-sufficient, but will also add Nigeria to the list of top global exporters of gasoline, diesel, aviation jet fuel, as well as other petrochemicals and petroleum-based products such as polypropylene.
With the refinery, your question is, okay, why are we building a refinery? But majority of all these countries, almost all the sub-Saharan African countries, they don't have refining capacity. So all of them, they export their oil, but they import products. So we realize that majority of the foreign exchange spendings of Nigeria goes to petroleum products imports.
Let's take a brief look at the Nigerian oil industry to get an appreciation of the landscape. Oil was first found in Nigeria in 1956, then a British protectorate, by a joint operation between the Royal Dutch Shell and British Petroleum. The two began production in 1958 and was soon joined by a host of other foreign oil companies in the 1960s after the country gained independence. The rapidly expanding oil industry was dogged in controversy from early on, with criticism that its financial proceeds were being exported or lost in corruption rather than be used to help the millions of people who live in the Niger Delta or reduce its impact on the local environment. Nigeria's government, despite being a long-time crude oil exporter, has four underperforming and frequently broken down refineries with a combined capacity of 445,000 barrels per day. These refineries, two in the oil hub of Port Harcourt, one in Wari in the Niger Delta, and the other in the northern city of Kaduna, are all operating at less than 50% of capacity. So there's no doubt that the refinery by the Dangote Group is going to be a game changer. One other issue that has plagued the Nigerian oil industry is that of oil theft. According to a report by the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Nigeria loses approximately 138 barrels per day of crude oil, around 7% of its total production, to theft, spills, or shut-in production. There's a scourge of illegal oil refineries in Nigeria, especially in the Niger Delta oil hub. Military authorities say that there are hundreds of illegal refineries in the region which process stolen crude from oil company pipelines. In 2016 alone, Nigeria's Navy chief said that 181 illegal refineries were destroyed that year, and crude oil and diesel worth more than $1.3 billion was confiscated. I'm just stating all of this to paint a picture as to why Dangote's refinery is important. There are hopes that the refinery will help lower the cost of fuel in Nigeria and finally allow for the removal of the fuel subsidies that have been in place for quite some time. In 2012, many Nigerians protested when the government of the then president, Goodluck Jonathan, abruptly announced an end to petrol subsidies, nearly doubling prices at the fuel pump. Back then, in 2012, prior to the subsidies removal, the pump price of fuel was 65 naira per litre against a landing cost of 139 naira. The government therefore was contributing 73 naira per litre as a subsidy, and this would accumulate to an annual total of 1.2 trillion naira or 2.6% of the country's GDP. In effect, since 1973, the fuel subsidy was regarded by a majority of Nigerians as one of the few benefits that they enjoyed as citizens of an oil-producing country. It was therefore not surprising that on 9 January in 2012, just a week after the announcements of the fuel subsidies removal, industrial strikes and demonstrations spread nationwide. That reaction prompted the government to bring down the new petrol price from 141 naira to 97 naira, still higher than the old price but retaining a partial subsidy. This brings us to the oil refinery that is currently being constructed by the Dangote Group. The refinery is Nigeria's largest ever industrial project. It boasts a distillation column for separating crude into various fuels at different temperatures that is the largest of its kind in the world. The 650,000 barrel per day refinery is just part of a $15 billion petrochemical complex that will house a gas processor and the world's biggest plant for ammonia and urea, which is used in making plastics and fertilizer. It is expected to be Africa's biggest oil refinery and the world's biggest single-train facility. The pipeline infrastructure at the Dangote Petroleum Refinery is the largest anywhere in the world, with 1,100 kilometers to handle 3 billion standard cubic foot of gas per day. The refinery alone has a 400 megawatt power plant. Once complete, it will be able to meet 100% of Nigeria's requirement of all refined products and also have a surplus of each of these products for export. This should ease pressure on the naira by freeing up 8.7 billion used to import refinery petroleum products each year, as well as create jobs in services and manufacturing around the project. Nigeria's central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele, has said that the project would employ more than 70,000 people when operational. In December of 2019, this ambitious refinery project took delivery of the world's largest single crude distillation column to much fanfare. With regards to the completion date, the project has hit a few snags along the way. Initially expected to begin production in 2016, the refinery deadline was postponed to the end of 2019. However, this didn't go according to plan and they shifted the launch date to the end of 2020. Nigeria's inefficient ports in Lagos were to blame for the slow progress of Africa's largest refinery, with executives citing problems in the importation of steel. But as you all know, 2020 did its 2020 things. As of November 2020, Dangote Group Director David Kumar Edwin told the media that from the middle of next year, 2021, the commissioning process would start and the commissioning process may take between 3 to 4 months. While by the last quarter of next year, petroleum products from the refinery would hit the market. However, Reuters reported in August of 2019 that industry insiders don't expect fuel output before 2022. As you can imagine, with such a project, there are some risk factors to consider, with one being the volatility of the oil price. Between the year 2000 and 2014, Nigeria's gross domestic product grew at an average of 7% per year. Following the oil collapse between 2014 to 2016, combined with negative production shocks, the gross domestic product growth rate dropped to 2.7% in 2015. In 2016, during its first recession in 25 years, the Nigerian economy contracted by 1.6%. So the collapse in oil prices, coupled with the COVID-19 pandemic, is expected to plunge the Nigerian economy into a severe economic recession. With the drop in oil prices, government revenues are expected to fall from an already low 8% of GDP in 2019 to a projected 5% in 2020. All that to say that a drop in the oil price might have revenue implications for the Dangote refinery. Another risk factor and another concern that people have is that of the environmental impact associated with the refinery. As of November 2020, the Dangote Petrochemical Refinery project in Lagos is now 80% completed, with production projected to start in the middle of next year, 2021. Similarly, The 2 billion fertilizer plant with a capacity of 3 million tons of urea and ammonia is expected to begin production very soon.
It is exporting its oil and then it has to buy refined oil products back, import it, right?
Yes.
And what you're doing is you're building one of the largest refineries in the world?
It is the largest single line in the world. It's 650,000 barrels a day.
Sorry, 650,000 barrels a day of refining capacity. So
I don't know about you, but I'm very excited about the endless possibilities that this refinery will bring to Africa's largest economy. Let me know in the comment section below what you think the benefits of such a massive project will be to Nigeria. If you're new to this channel and are interested in getting more of such content, don't be shy to subscribe and to click the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any new content. Also, don't forget to like and share the video if you found it useful. This has been Tatenda for African Biographics. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, cheers. Have a good one.